Today, October 12th, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. The air smells like expensive parchment and sandalwood candles. $85 per candle. The humidity is exactly 55%. Perfect for preserving the spines of books and the egos of liars. She is wearing a white power suit by Stella McCartney. Retail price, $3,200. She is holding a hardcover book like it's a religious relic. Title, The Architecture of the Soul. Bestseller list. #1 for 6 weeks. Seat 42B? I am wearing a gray sweater from a thrift store. It has a faint smell of mothballs and old libraries. My mother is in the front row, Evelyn. She is wearing a gold brooch in the shape of a quill, a gift from Lily. Bought with the royalties from a book she didn't write. 10 minutes ago, Evelyn saw me in the lobby. She pulled me into the coat closet. She smelled of expensive gin and forgiveness. "June, honey, try to stay in the shadows today. You look a bit unrefined. We don't want the New York Times reporter to think Lily's sister is a bitter academic. It ruins the narrative of innately gifted. Leave a comment and tell me, has your family ever treated your intellect as a free resource for their favorite child?" Flashback to 2019, the parallel contrast. Lily got the social media management course for $5,000. Lily got the $2,500 MacBook Pro to start her blog. Lily got the $1,200 ring light to ensure her truth was well lit. I got a library card. I got a part-time job transcribing medical records at 11 p.m. for $14 an hour. I got a second-hand desk with a broken drawer that I fixed with duct tape. Evelyn said, "June is so self-contained. She is a deep well. Lily is a fountain. A fountain needs a pump to stay beautiful. You're the water, June. You just exist to be moved, and water is free." The theft. I was 29 years old. I had spent 3 years, 412 days, and exactly 14,000 hours on my thesis. The Psychological Framework of Resilience. It was on a flash drive, a red Lexar 64-gigabyte drive. I kept it in my desk drawer, the one with the duct tape. One Monday, the drawer was empty. The drive was gone. The 400 pages of data. The case studies. The soul of my career. I found the draft on the kitchen table, but the title page didn't say June Miller. It said Lily Miller, and the new title was The Architecture of the Soul, a Memoir of Strength. I walked into the kitchen. Evelyn was making green juice for Lily. The blender was screaming. "The drive is gone, Mom." I said it with a weather report tone, partly cloudy. High of 60. Lily has the manuscript. Evelyn turned off the blender. The silence was heavier than the noise. "Lily's career is stagnant, June. Her engagement rate is down 40%. She needs a pivot. She needs to be seen as a thought leader. You have the PhD. You'll write another one. You're a ghostwriter at heart, June. You're built for the shadows. Lily was built for the stage. Think of it as a gift to your sister's survival." I looked at Lily. She was taking a selfie with the manuscript. She didn't look at me. She didn't thank me. She just typed a caption. "Writing is so cathartic. Finally sharing my truth." Number author life. I realized then that I wasn't a daughter. I was a ghostwriter for a family that didn't know my name. I walked out of the house. I didn't scream. I went to the university library. I sat in my usual cubicle. I opened a new file. Title: The Audit of the Fountain. The ghost was officially done being silent. The book didn't just happen. It was engineered. Evelyn spent $20,000 of my savings, the money I had set aside for my lab fees, to hire a book launch strategist. A man who told Lily she needed to look intellectually chic. $10,000 for a book tour that was actually just a series of photo ops in independent bookstores. I paid for the publicist. I paid for the $300 a plate industry luncheons. Evelyn would hand me the credit card statements with a sigh. June, honey, Lily's intellectual brand is a high-maintenance asset. It's $1,200 for the Thought Leader PR package. You don't mind, do you? You have that steady research grant. Stable like a stone wall. I paid the bills. I added them to the spreadsheet. Every dollar was a citation. Every cent was a footnote. Flashback to 2016. I was 22. I won the Outstanding Researcher Award. There was no party. Evelyn said, "We can't afford a celebration, June. Lily needs a new look. She's auditioning for a reality show about influencers." I spent that weekend working at a call center. I listened to people complain about their internet speeds for 10 hours a day. I earned the $1,500 for Lily's audition portfolio. On the day of my award ceremony, Evelyn wasn't there. She was at the studio with Lily. She sent me a text. "Congrats, Smartio. Can you proofread Lily's bio? Make it sound deep." 2024, the book launch gala, was the peak of the lie. Lily had successfully convinced the world she was a psychological visionary. She had a deal for a 10-episode Netflix series. The gala at the plaza was the victory lap. Lily wanted 300 guests. She wanted a $50,000 charity auction for mental health. She wanted me to handle the technical logistics. Because you're so good with the data, June. And since you're family, you can do it for free. It's for the architecture of the soul, remember? I looked at the guest list. The dean of my university. The CEO of the largest publishing house in New York. The man Lily was courting for the Netflix deal. Julian Sterling. A man who built a media empire on documentary truth. I smiled at Lily. It was the cold, mechanical movement of a machine. "I'll handle the visuals," I said. "I'll make sure everyone sees the source of your inspiration." I spent 4 months planning the visuals. I negotiated with the AV team. I knew which projector had the highest resolution. But most importantly, I knew the metadata. Lily had edited the manuscript on my old laptop. A laptop that still had my digital signature on every save. A laptop that had a hidden backup folder. I let them believe they were winning. I let them believe I was the stable stone wall. "June, we need another $3,000 for the stage lighting. The author needs to glow like a visionary." I didn't tell them it was a loan from a shell company I'd created. A company called Primary Source LLC. Revenge is a cold citation. It requires a precise audit of the truth. Most people think revenge is about noise. It's not. Noise is messy. Noise can be ignored. Revenge is about the record. You just present the data and let the audience do the math. While Evelyn and Lily were picking out the font for the gala banners, I was doing the grind montage. 26 years old, I worked as a fact-checker for a legal journal. I learned how to spot a lie in a 500-page document in under an hour. I became a licensed data analyst. I learned the power of a digital footprint. 30 years old, I started my own silent consulting firm. I helped universities catch academic fraudsters. I became a ghost in the intellectual property system. I moved my own intellectual assets, the research they thought was theirs, into a copyright vault they couldn't touch. I let them believe I was the quiet well. "June, we need another $2,000 for the signed first editions." I paid the $2,000. I didn't tell them the copyright was already registered in my name. I didn't tell them that every book they sold was a legal liability. Flashback to 2018. I was 24. I was dating a man named David. He was a history professor. He liked the way I argued about the French Revolution. He liked that I preferred the smell of old paper to the smell of perfume. He wanted to propose. Evelyn invited him to tea. I wasn't there. She told him June is a very internal girl. She's focused on the data. She'll never be able to give you the excitement you want, David. She's the brain of the family. She's too busy being a library to ever be a wife. You should find someone who has. Spark. Like Lily, he didn't even call. He left a note on my library cubicle. I don't want to live in a library, June. I hope the data keeps you warm. I just added emotional damages to the ledger of things they owed me. The night before the gala, the house that was now 80% owned by Primary Source LLC, Lily was practicing her speech. I wrote this book from a place of deep personal pain, she whispered to the mirror. It's my soul on the page. It's certainly a soul on the page, I said. Very specific. Very detailed. Evelyn beamed. She's a visionary, isn't she, June? And you've done a wonderful job with the AV setup. Now don't forget to wear the gray sweater tomorrow. We want you to stay in the back. A deep well shouldn't distract people from the fountain. I nodded. I felt the weight of the USB drive in my pocket. The red Lexar drive. The one that contained the 14,000 hours of original time-stamped files. The files that Julian Sterling, a man who hates fakes, would find very interesting. The night before the audit is always the quietest. I stayed in the Plaza ballroom until 2 a.m. I checked the projector. Slide 1. Lily's author photo. Slide 2. A quote about authenticity. Slide 3. The resilience chart. I knew that the data on that chart was calculated using a formula I developed in 2021. A formula that was trademarked under my name. I looked at the centerpiece on Julian Sterling's table. It was a glass pyramid, surrounded by white ivory symbolism. Structure. The mind. I knew that the price of that pyramid was exactly the amount I had spent on my tuition for the final semester. The math, $50,000 charity goal. $45,000 spent on production, suit, hotel, publicist. $5,000 sitting in Lily's Venmo account. $0 donated to mental health haram. I sat in the dark ballroom. The only sound was the hum of the HVAC. I remembered 2012. The year our father died. He didn't leave a will. He just left a house and a star daughter. Evelyn sat in his armchair and drank wine for a year. Lily, 15, cried because she couldn't get the new iPhone. I was 17. I went to the registrar's office and applied for every scholarship in the state. I earned $10,000. I bought groceries. I paid the mortgage. I didn't cry. I realized that someone had to be the stone wall. June, are you still here? She was walking through the ballroom holding a martini. She looked at the glass pyramid. It's profound, June. Lily really has a gift for the visual. It's a shame you don't have her. Reach. You could have been an editor or something. But I suppose every author needs a shadow. I'm happy in the shadows, Mom. I said it with the cold clarity of a weather report. The shadows are where the truth stays cool. And tomorrow, the shadows will pay off. Julian Sterling asked about the Netflix deal today. He called Lily a modern philosopher. Can you believe it? Our little Lily, a global voice. We'll never have to worry about a grant again. We'll be the Miller sisters. And you. We'll find you a nice position in Lily's research department. Something stable. Checking facts. Organizing her notes. I think I'd be very good at organizing her notes, I said. She patted my cheek. Her fingers were cold. They smelled of gin and stolen credit. You're a good girl, June. A stable girl. Now go back to your cubicle and get some rest. You have to be at the AV desk at 7 a.m. And remember, the gray sweater. No jewelry. No heels. We want the press to see the fountain, not the plumbing. I watched her walk away. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. I thought about the architecture of her lies. I thought about the $14,000 hours that were the price of my life. The weather report for tomorrow. High of 70. 100% chance of a total system failure. The gala began at 7 p.m. The elite of the literary world poured into the plaza. Editors in $1,000 shoes. Critics with pens that cost more than my monthly rent. I was in my gray sweater. I sat behind the AV console. I was a ghost. I stood 3 feet from Julian Sterling. He was talking to the dean of my university. "I've seen so many ghost-written memoirs," Julian said. His voice was deep, stone. "People who hire someone to make their life sound profound. But Lily Miller, she's different. She has a raw, academic rigor. She doesn't just talk about feelings. She talks about the data." I leaned in and adjusted his microphone. "Audio check, sir?" He didn't look at my face. He looked at loud and clear, he said. At 9 p.m., Lily took the stage. The spotlight hit the Stella McCartney suit. She looked intellectually chic, the fountain in full flow. She spoke into the microphone. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. "Resilience is not a feeling," she began. "It is an architecture. In my years of solitary research, I've found that the soul has a framework. Tonight, we aren't just launching a book, we are launching a movement of the mind." Evelyn was in the front row. She was dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. She looked at the Netflix producer. She was already counting the residuals. "Now," Lily said, her voice trembling with fake academic passion, "I want to show you the data behind the resilience. The core findings of my 3-year study." I was at the back of the room, behind the console. The technician next to me was a 24-year-old kid named Sam. He was looking at his phone. "Ready for the presentation?" I whispered. "Yeah, whatever," he said. He hit the spacebar. The screen behind Lily flickered. But it wasn't the architecture of the soul slide. It was a screen recording. A digital audit. Title, metadata log. The architecture of the soul. Line 1. Original file created September 2019. Line 2. Author, June Miller, PhD candidate. Line 3. 4,000 hours of editing. Primary user, June Miller. Line 45. File renamed Lily's Memoir, April 2023. Line 46. Primary user, Evelyn Miller. Evelyn's guest login. The room went silent. The kind of silence that happens when a plane engine stops at 30,000 feet. Lily froze. The spotlight was still on her, but the intellectual chic now looked like a shoplifter caught with the goods. The screen scrolled up. Next slide, a side-by-side comparison. Left side, my unpublished PhD thesis from 2022. Right side, Chapter 4 of Lily's memoir. Word for word, including a specific typo in a Latin citation that I had left there as a digital fingerprint. Next slide. A video, not of a visionary, but of Evelyn in the coat closet. I had recorded the gin-soaked conversation on my phone. Evelyn's voice echoed through the Plaza Ballroom speakers. June is a ghostwriter at heart. Think of it as a gift to Lily's survival. We want the press to see the fountain, not the plumbing. I stood up from the AV console. I took off the gray sweater. Underneath, I was wearing a black silk dress. Prada. Bought with the royalties I had legally redirected to Primary Source LLC. I walked down the center aisle. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. I stopped at Julian Sterling's table. Julian was looking at the screen. His face was the color of a cold anvil. He looked at Lily. Then he looked at me. "Is this the plumbing?" Julian asked. His voice was a low vibration of iron. I looked at the stage. Lily was shaking. Evelyn was screaming at Sam, the technician, but the console was locked. "The fountain is empty, Julian," I said. "I'm the source. I'm the one who spent 14,000 hours in the dark. And tonight, the shadows are coming into the light." I turned to Evelyn. She was staring at me. Her martini glass was on the floor. "June, what have you done?" "I've audited the soul, Mom," I said. "I've redirected the residuals. And as for the fountain, The pump has been disconnected." He didn't look back. The dean of the university was already calling the Board of Ethics. Lily was crying, but the spotlight had already burned out. I looked at Julian Sterling. He stood up. He didn't look at Lily. He looked at me. "You're the one who wrote the framework?"
Every word, I said.
"Including the Latin typo." "I like your rigor, June," he said. "But I like your coldness even more. Call my office tomorrow. I think I need a new documentary lead." I walked out of the plaza. I didn't look back at the star falling on the stage. I didn't look at the supportive mother screaming in the coat closet. I got into my own car, a black Tesla. Silent, fast, paid for. The weather report, clear skies, low of 50, 100% chance of a ghost finally becoming. The silence after a system failure is never truly silent. It is a low-frequency hum. The sound of air conditioning moving through a ballroom that has just been emptied of its lies. The sound of 300 elite guests whispering in the elevators of the plaza. The sound of a $3,200 Stella McCartney suit dragging across a marble floor that is no longer a stage. I stood behind the AV console. I watched them through the security monitors. Evelyn was on her knees. She wasn't praying. Tasche sei Shirtul Gentine se Salors et Dishon the Chenmin Ban Sin Shru. As if she could put the metadata back inside the ink. As if she could unsee the screen recording of her own betrayal. Lily was leaning against the ivory pyramid centerpiece. Her white suit looked unnaturally bright against her gray skin. She looked like a statue that had been abandoned in a desert. Flashback to 2011. The Ledger of Slights. Lily's 16th birthday. She wanted a visionary launch for her YouTube channel. A professional camera crew. $4,500. I was 18. I had just won a regional academic decathlon. Scholarship money, $1,200. Evelyn took the check. "June, honey, a scholarship is a personal achievement, but a 16th birthday is a family milestone. You have your brain." "You're so smart. You don't need the money to feel valued." "She needs the reach. A fountain won't flow without a pump." You're like a deep well. You grow in the silence. You grow in the dark. And the dark is free." I sat in my room that night. I didn't cry. I looked at the empty space where my scholarship check had been. I realized then that in this house, smart was just another word for invisible. And invisible was just another word for resource. Now back to the plaza. The press was gone. The sandalwood candles were half melted. The ivory roses were starting to brown at the edges. Julian Sterling was standing by the exit. He didn't look back at the stage. He looked at his watch. A Jaeger LeCoultre. Steel, not gold. Real truth doesn't need to shine. It just needs to be precise. "June," he called out. His voice was a low vibration in the empty hall. The audit was devastating. I don't invest in authors who plagiarize their own sisters. And I certainly don't invest in families who treat intellectual property as a shared bank account. But a woman who can write a framework and a public execution at the same time? That's a lead producer. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't look at my sister. I didn't look at the Stella McCartney suit. I looked at the spreadsheet in my mind. The total debt of Evelyn and Lily, $185,422.10. The market value of the family home, $220,000. The math, they were $34,577.90 in the red. And I was the one who owned the red. The week following the plaza launch was a study in cold subtraction. I moved my belongings out of the family home. I didn't have much. A suitcase of gray sweaters, a box of worn-out journals. I rented a studio apartment near the university. 350 square feet. The heater clanked like a dying engine. The air smelled of old paper and independence. It cost $1,450 a month. Every dollar was mine. Flashback to 2017. The grind of the ghost. I was 24. I was working 3 jobs to pay for my master's degree. Research assistant at 8 a.m. Library clerk at 2 p.m. Data entry at 9 p.m. June, honey, Lily needs a brand refresh. She needs to fly to Paris for a creative pilgrimage. It's $6,000. Since you have those 3 jobs, you won't mind helping her, will you? You're so stable. You don't need pilgrimages. You're built for the library. You're like a piece of flint. You're like a piece of flint. But Lily is the flame. I gave her the $6,000. I ate 99-cent noodles for 5 months. I realized then that flint only lasts until it's ground down to nothing, and I was tired of being the fuel. Now, the audit had reached the university board. The dean called me into his office. He was a man who smelled of mahogany and pipe tobacco. June, the evidence you presented at the plaza is undeniable. Lily Miller's memoir has been flagged for 92% plagiarism. The university is revoking her honorary fellowship, and Evelyn Miller, her contract as the alumni coordinator, is being terminated. Moral turpitude. The leather was cold. I appreciate the update, Dean, I said. My voice was a weather report low of 30, freezing fog. What will you do now, June? The residuals from the book are being frozen. The Netflix deal is dead. I've already filed for the copyright transfer, I said. The architecture of the soul belongs to the mind that built it. The residuals aren't frozen for me. They are being redirected. I walked out of the office. I passed Lily in the hallway. She was sitting on a bench. She was wearing a cheap hoodie. The Stella McCartney suit was at the dry cleaners, but she couldn't afford the ticket. She looked at me. June, I have no followers left. I've been canceled. The press is at the house. Mom is drinking the rest of the gin. The press loves a fountain, Lily, I said. But nobody wants to watch a fountain that only pumps mud. Maybe you should try the library. The books are free. But the reading is hard work. 6 months after the plaza. April 2024. The humidity is rising, but the mood is absolute zero. I was at a small cafe near the park. I was there to meet Julian Sterling, a $250,000 a year consulting contract. I was wearing a black silk blouse, Prada, bought with the redirected royalties of my own mind. I saw her across the street, Lily, the star. She was holding a flyer for a self-care workshop at a community center. Attendance, 4 people. Admission, $10. She was wearing her intellectually chic glasses, but the frames were taped at the hinge. 5 cents of Scotch tape. She was trying to take a selfie, but her phone screen was shattered. A spiderweb of cracks over her authenticity. Lily's first viral moment. She had stolen a poem I wrote for our father's funeral. She posted it on Instagram. My heart on the page, she wrote. She got 10,000 likes. She got a sponsorship from a tea company. I got a thank you text from Evelyn. June, honey, Lily really gave your words a voice. You should be proud. You're the instrument. She's the music. I realized then that an instrument eventually loses its tune, and I was done being played. I walked past the bus stop. Lily saw me. She didn't call my name. She didn't ask for money. She just looked at my Prada blouse. She looked at my black Tesla parked at the curb. She looked at the fountain she used to be. How was the workshop, Lily? I asked. My voice was a weather report. Clear skies. High of 75. It's a process, June, she whispered. I'm finding my true voice. True voices don't need 14,000 hours of someone else's data, Lily. They just need the truth. Good luck with the workshop. I hear the acoustics at the community center are very honest. The silence of the electric motor was the only sound I needed. I drove away. The star stayed at the bus stop, waiting for a ride that was never coming. The stable house is located in a suburb that smells of wet grass and broken dreams. I visit once a month, not to talk, but to audit the decline. Evelyn was sitting in the garden, but the garden was overgrown. The ivory roses were dead. The architecture was crumbling. She was wearing a bathrobe I bought her 3 years ago. Polyester. $19.99. The gold quill brooch was gone. She had pawned it for a bottle of mid-tier gin. "June," she said. Her voice was a rasp, the sound of a dry leaf dragging across a grave. "Lily is struggling. She's living in a room with 3 other girls. She's working at a makeup counter. She smells like foundation and failure. You have the royalties, June. You have the Netflix deal. You're the brain. You're the stone wall. You can't let your sister suffer." I looked at my watch. 11 a.m. I had a recording session with Julian at 1 p.m. "The suffering is a framework, Mom," I said. "It's part of the architecture. Lily is learning how to be a person without a ghostwriter. It's a valuable case study." "I was only trying to save her," Evelyn cried. She reached for her glass. The gin was clear, like her lies. "I was trying to make sure at least one of you was happy. You were always so content in the library. You were the plumbing, June. You were supposed to stay underground." "I did stay underground," I said. "I stayed underground until I learned how to build a skyscraper. And once you're on the 50th floor, you don't care about the plumbing. I don't owe Lily a voice, Mom. I owe her the silence she earned." Evelyn's 50th birthday. She wanted a legacy party. I was 20. I was working double shifts at the call center. I paid for the catering. I paid for the band. I paid for the champagne. Lily stood up and gave a toast to the woman who taught me everything about life. Evelyn looked at Lily like she was the sun. She looked at me like I was the chair she was sitting on. "Thanks for the cake, June," she whispered. "Try to stay in the kitchen. The guests are arriving." I straightened my Prada blouse. "The mortgage is paid through the end of the year, Mom. Don't call Lily. She needs to focus on her sales targets. And at the makeup counter, targets are the only thing that matters." I walked out of the garden. I got into my Tesla. The air in the car smelled like success and cold logic. I drove toward the glass and steel of the city. The plumbing was finally above ground. Present day. 1 year since the audit. I am standing on the stage. I'm wearing a black suit. Tailored. Armani. I am holding a trophy. The Peabody Award for Documentary Truth. I look at the crowd. The elite of the media world. Julian Sterling is in the front row. He is smiling, hard, true. I speak into the microphone. My voice is no longer a ghost. It is the weather report for a new world. "Truth is not a fountain," I begin. "It is not a performance for a camera. It is an architecture. It is built in the dark, in the libraries, and in the 14,000 hours of solitary work. Tonight, we aren't just celebrating a documentary. We are celebrating the source." I look at the back of the room. Near the AV console, I see a woman. She is wearing a gray sweater. She is carrying a tray of empty glasses. She looks tired. She looks invisible. It is Lily. She is working for the catering firm I now own. She doesn't get a spotlight. Ta nader shishur sin. Ta juda shidsiki susha. Ta yonde shiwatotai dalde jo biji bani dinao. Evelyn is in a nursing home, a stable facility. White walls, fluorescent lights. She has a small window. It looks out at a library. I pay the bills every month. I don't visit. I don't need to. The silence is the only legacy we have left. Lily walks toward the stage with a tray. "More water, June." "Stable. Thank you, Lily," I say. I take the glass. I don't look at her face. I look at the tray. There's a smudge on the glass. "Fix it. We don't want the guests to see the plumbing." She nods. She walks away. She doesn't cry. Fountains don't cry when the pump is broken. I take a sip of the water. It is clear. It is cold. It tastes like the 400 pages I wrote. It tastes like the library I lived in. It tastes like the ghost who finally became the architect. I look at the horizon through the ballroom window. The sky is blue. The sun is rising. And for the first time in 30 years, the light is mine. I am June Miller. I am the source. And I am never going to haunt the stage again. Because I own it. Today, November 14th. The sky is a flat industrial gray. The kind of weather that makes everything look like a CCTV recording. I am standing across the street from Legacy and Loans pawnbrokers. The sign is neon. It flickers with a hum that sounds like a dying insect. The frequency is exactly 60 hertz. I am watching the... Evelyn walks in at 10:14 a.m. She is wearing her bathrobe under a long trench coat. The coat has a stain on the lapel that looks like a map of a country she'll never visit. She is carrying a small velvet box. The blue velvet is worn at the corners. It looks like... Inside is the gold brooch, the quill shape, 14-karat gold, with a microscopic diamond at the tip. The gift Lily bought her with the first royalty check. The royalty check that came from my 400 pages of data. I watch her through the window. The lighting inside the shop is fluorescent. Cool white, 4,000 kelvins. It shows every crack on her foundation. It shows the way her fingers tremble when she opens the box. The pawnbroker is a man named Sol. He wears a jeweler's loop like a... He looks at the quill. He looks at Evelyn. He sees the supportive mother mask. He doesn't care about the mask. He only cares about the weight. Flashback to 2016. I was 22. I was working a graveyard shift transcribing medical records. I came home at 7 a.m. My eyes were bloodshot. My hands were shaking from too much caffeine and too little hope. I saw Evelyn in the kitchen. She was polishing Lily's old trophies with a silk cloth. They're so beautiful, aren't they, June? They represent a life of reach. A life Lily was born for. You're more of a Flint girl. Practical. Durable. You don't need the shine to be useful. I looked at my hands. They were stained with the ink of 100 charts. I realized then that in her world, Flint wasn't a compliment. It was a sentence. It meant I was the tool. Lily was the music. The tool is used until it breaks. The music is played until the audience leaves. Now, back to... Saul writes a number on a yellow slip. $180. It is a joke. It is 15% of the actual value. Evelyn argues. I can see her mouth moving. She is talking about architecture. She is talking about bestsellers. Sol shrugs. He points to the cancel culture headline on the tabloid sitting on his counter. The $500,000 fraud built on plagiarism. The quill is toxic. The ink is gone. She takes the $180. She leaves the quill. She walks out into the industrial gray rain. She doesn't see me in my Tesla. I pick up my phone. I call Saul. June Miller. I'll take the gold quill. I'll pay $250. Keep the change for the third eye. The quill is in a plastic bag on the passenger seat. It doesn't look like a gift anymore. It looks like a paid-in-full citation. When the gin runs low, predators look for a new source. Evelyn went hunting. She put on her last clean blouse. She used a damp cloth to wipe the grime off her face. She went to see Aunt Martha. Martha is my father's sister. She is a woman who wears iron slacks and buys her own stocks. She doesn't believe in fountains. She believes in dividends. Evelyn tried the weather report. June has had a psychological breakdown, she sighed. She dabbed her eyes with a dry tissue. She's gone unstable. She's left us with nothing, Martha. Lily is devastated. She's so sensitive, you know. She just needs a small resilience loan. $10,000, just to get her brand back on track. Just to show her the world isn't all shadows. Martha didn't offer tea. She didn't offer a hug. She sat in her armchair and looked at Evelyn like a librarian looking at a torn page. 10,000? Martha asked. That's a lot of money for a sensitive girl. It's for her future, Evelyn pleaded. She has so much reach. Reach, Martha whispered. I've heard that word for 20 years. I've watched June pay for that reach. I've watched June wear sweaters with holes in them while Lily wore Stella McCartney. I am not a plumbing fixture, Evelyn. I am a thunderstorm. And you are standing in the middle of a field with a metal brooch. She gave her a piece of advice, the kind that cuts. Sell the Stella suit, Evelyn, and tell the Star to find a book. While they were drowning, I was building. The 1,000-day grind began. I moved to a city where the sky was gray and the logic was hard. I worked in a glass building. I didn't tell them I was smart. I told them I was proprietary. 4 a.m., the taste of cold obsidian in my mouth. The blue light of 3 monitors reflecting in my glasses. I was building a fortress out of data. I coordinated intellectual property audits for the biggest publishers in the world. I managed the flow of truth that never slept. I realized that if I could manage a mother's delusions, I could manage an empire. I lived in a loft, minimalist, cold. I didn't buy a sofa. I didn't want anyone to sit down. I slept on a high-quality mattress. I ate meal-prepped salads. Every dollar I made was a citation. I wasn't building a thesis anymore. I was building a reality. I stopped checking their social media. I didn't need to see the mud to know it was there. I knew the math. Without my $3,500 monthly subsidy, the house was a sinking ship. The MacBook was gone. The ring light was broken. The family honor was a pile of unread legal notices. I learned the power of the word no. It is a short word, but it is a heavy one. It is the only word that can stop a fountain in its tracks. I said it to the producers. I said it to the men who tried to buy me drinks. I said it to the ghost of my mother every morning. No, I am not the plumbing. I am the ocean, and I am deep. 6 months later. My office. Isabella was standing in front of my slate desk. She was wearing her catering uniform. She had a smudge of flour on her sleeve. She didn't look like a socialite. She looked like a worker. I'd like to request a raise, Sophie, she said. Her voice was low. It had lost the orchid flutter. It sounded like gravel. I've been with the firm for 3 years. I haven't missed a shift. I've cleaned every pot. I want to move out of the dormitory. I want to have a life. I picked up my Mont Blanc pen. $450. A life is an expensive asset, Isabella. It requires a high level of maintenance. And based on your performance history, you have a tendency to overspend on the aesthetic. I'm not that person anymore, she cried. She slammed her hand on the slate. It made a dull, solid thud. I scrub floors. I carry trays. I smell like industrial soap. I've paid the debt. The debt of the money is paid, Isabella, I said. But the debt of the vision is infinite. You wanted the spotlight. I gave you the shadows. The shadows are where you're safe. In the spotlight, you're a fraud. In the shadows, you're a caterer. Which would you rather be? She looked at me. Her eyes were full of a fire I hadn't seen before. It wasn't the spark Catherine talked about. It was the burn of the coal. I'd rather be you, she whispered. I'd rather be the one holding the tray of thorns. You're not ready for the thorns, Isabella, I said. You're still worried about the smudge on your sleeve. A vizier doesn't care about the sleeve. A vizier cares about the empire. Go back to the kitchen. There's a shipment of white musk coming in. It needs to be organized. By scent and by price. She didn't say thank you. Present day. Zurich, Switzerland. I am sitting in a cafe by the lake. The water is clear. The air is sharp. The silence is absolute. I am 34 years old. I am the CEO of Primary Source Global. I am the mind behind the Netflix series The Plagiarism Files. It is the #1 show in the world. It is my truth. I received a letter yesterday. It was from a shelter in my hometown. A social worker wrote it. "Your sister Lily is ill," it said. "She is living in a shared room. She needs a deep well to help her stand. She needs her sister." I sat in my silk Prada blouse. I looked at the Alps. They are made of granite. They don't move for fountains. They don't move for gin. I didn't write a check. I didn't call the social worker. I simply pressed a stamp onto the document, red ink. Return to sender. I walked to the edge of the lake. The horizon is white. The dawn is breaking. And for the first time in 34 years, the only thing I am carrying is my own mind. My name is June Miller. I am the source. And I am finally, perfectly real.